Welcome to Sable BooKnight, an independent publishing company located in Canada, offering author services and accepting submissions for anthologies. Visit sablebooknight.ca for more information, and BooKnight shares the cake. Here are your hosts, Tania and Story Tyrant. Hi there. Now, before we get into this week's episode, a little note. We had a bit of a technical error on my end, and unfortunately, the very first portion of this podcast, I missed recording the screen. You will see it come in, though, with Tyra and I on the screen, but for the first bit, you'll just see a background, and I apologize for this. Now on with the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of the Sable BooKnight podcast. My name is Tania.
And I'm Story Tyrant.
And today we are talking about AI and writing, a very controversial topic which has come up in many, many podcasts.
Yes, it is.
I don't know how you feel about, well, actually, I do know how you feel about AI. And I think that we're along the same line, but here's my thoughts. AI is everywhere, whether we want it to be or not. It is used in algorithms on Amazon. It is used on a lot of things. Even Microsoft Word has AI. And I think that there is no completely getting away from it. However, I am completely 100% against generative AI. I think that AI can be a useful tool for things like editing. But, like, for example, I use Pro Writing Aid. Pro Writing Aid does actually have generative AI in it in the way that it helps you rephrase awkward sentences. So I have tried that a couple of times with sentences that, like, no matter what I do, it doesn't sound right. But I don't usually go with their suggestions. I use their suggestions as a guideline or an idea of how I could rephrase it, and then I make it my own. So I never actually use the generative AI myself. The only other thing that I've tried with AI outside of that is just like a couple weeks ago, I went on ChatGPT, and I didn't know they could do images, like even in the free version. So I tried that as inspiration to visually see my character. So I didn't do anything with the image, but I did test it out just to kind of get an idea as to what the character looks like and that sort of thing. So what are your thoughts, Tyra?
Well, Tyrant's about to give us a little rant here. All right. So the first thing is LLMs, large language models, are not artificial intelligence. They are a very advanced matching program. So what they do is they plagiarize every work that's come before. All right? Because they don't understand basic grammar. Because they have no ability to understand. They are a pattern matching program. So what you do is the more books, articles, letters, everything you could put in there, the more of a pattern they can pick up, right? That is why IBM's business-only LLM is only trained on proper business documents, from emails to resignation letters to resumes. And because of that, you don't get things like, and his penis was large, while you're trying to send an email to somebody about a picnic, upcoming corporate picnic, because it's looking to match patterns. All right? So IBM said, if we're going to have a LLM to do business communication, we're going to train it on and only on quality business communication. So more and more companies for business communication are using IBM's LLM. Now, generative AI is still pattern recognition. It's still an LLM. So when you ask the LLM, or what they are calling AI, and they're calling it AI as a selling That's marketing. Remember, marketing ruins everything. Well, in this case, it definitely has. Because people are assuming that the AI, that it is an actual artificial intelligence. It is not. It is a large language system. Which has targeted. Well, it does what it's doing based on the prompts you give it, and it took a long time for them to have enough data on prompts to get reactions or results that were close. Now, the more interactions it has, with the more people saying, no, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, and correcting it, the more chance it has of having a correct answer in the future. That's why you're using it as helping to train it for them. All right? So when you say, write me a story, okay, let me back up a step. Writing is like any other craft. And you have two groups of people. You have those who wish to have written and be an author, and they have always existed. They have paid people to ghostwrite novels, to ghostwrite stories since the very first publishing houses, okay? We're always going to have them. And then there's people who want to master the craft of writing, all right? What you tend to find is the craft people, like Stephen King, like Jim Butcher, like Abercrombie, like there's tons of them here. Michael Crichton. They choose to master their craft and produce a product that is the books they want to read. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they do it out of a challenge. Sometimes they do it out of a challenge, external challenge. Sometimes an internal challenge. Sometimes a combination thereof. They tend to be a lot more successful than the ghostwriters, especially in the long run. The ghostwriters often have a nice big, ooh, look, isn't this wonderful? And they'll have a flash in the pan. But it's your Stephen Kings and your Michael Crichtons and your, what's her name? She wrote the Kinsey series. She wrote A is for Alibi, B is for Burglar. I love her books, and it's weird because they're in the other room. Anyway, these people have a long life of producing work. But here's the thing. When they start out and they get to a certain point in their career, and this is true, you can interview these people, you can listen to interviews online, they get to a point where they stop editing the way you and I still edit. So what happens is they've been writing for so long, doing all the little steps for so long, that they will produce a book or a story much faster than you or I, and of really high quality. And the reason is they have learned the fine points of the craft so well, they don't think about them anymore. It's like if you do archery. The first 2 years of archery, you notch the bow, you go through the process, you bring it up, and you practice all the steps. But starting about the second year, or some people say when you've hit 10,000 hours, a lot of that becomes automatic, right? It's like you're talking to the person, you notch the arrow, and you're up, and you do the shot, and you're aiming, and it becomes quick, fast, and automatic. The same thing happens to these writers, and it happens at a point, and then you see your output increase. You see this increase in output. Now, you can compare this to going to the gym. All right? If you're going to the gym, I know I sound like I'm off topic. I'm not. If you go to the gym, let's say you say, all right, I'm going to go to gym. Instead of going to the gym every day and doing my reps and going on the treadmill or elliptical, whatever it is, and doing my cardio. So you're going to the gym every day. You're doing reps for your muscle groups, right? Legs Monday, Tuesday, I don't know, abs, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Shoulders, arms. And every day you're doing cardio. Well, let's say you say, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go once a week, walk up to the weight machine and do the best. I'm just going to go in there and lift 300 pounds. Because, when I was going to the gym every day, I hit 300 pounds. I would not hit 300 pounds, but you know what I'm saying. I'll say 200 pounds. Well, if you stop doing the reps very, very quickly, you can't lift 200 pounds. It's actually within a week. Well, no, my best now is 197. Oh, now my best is 150. Now my best is 100. I go once a week, I do one power lift, and I leave. What happens to your ability to lift weights? It goes away because things
Yeah.
begin to atrophy. I have been following studies, and they say by using these tools, it's like using social media to isolate yourself and to become socially distant from people around you. So it creates high levels of anxiety and distress, both subconsciously and consciously, allowing you to be much more easily cyberbullied and becoming much more worried about how other people think of you. Well, that's what social media does. Well, why does it do that? Why does doom scrolling damage your ability to think or to do anything more than get dopamine hits, and prime you for being an addict? Well, it's the same thing. It's training your brain. If you go up to this LLM and say, okay, using, because it's a tool of plagiarism, remember that. I want a 300-page novel about vampires in the style of Stephen King. Well, the LLM looks at all the Stephen King novels, all of them, all his papers, his short works, his Backman books, and says, okay, these are the way he writes. These are his rhythms, okay? This is his natural way of forming sentences. And it didn't write you a story. Well, you have to go through that story and fix it, as everyone will tell you. And then as you're going through the story, you can go, okay, excellent, and then you publish it. Well, that is open and outright plagiarism, which is why you can't own that work. Number two, this is my second point. So, don't outsource your thinking. If you outsource your thinking, you deserve what you get. Number two, if you are openly plagiarizing, you deserve what's coming, because already all of the LLM companies, not one, not two, all of them, have stated, except for IBM, which does a licensing thing, that if you use their LLMs to create anything, so their AIs to create anything, they own it, not you. So remember that. That is why you can't say, hey, also, if it is discovered, you use it in the style of Stephen King, or the style of Jim Butcher, or the style of Anne Hathaway, I don't know, whoever. Well, they get to sue you too, because it's been accepted that that's open plagiarism. You're openly plagiarizing them. Here's the even better part, number 4. After you use AI for a little while to write your stories, to do all the basic work, good luck going back and doing it again, because you will have to relearn it. Okay? It's like not driving. If you stop driving, and I mean like for quite a while, and then you think you just get back behind the wheel, yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, I agree with that one. So the thing about the driving thing, I completely agree with. I had many months where I was not capable of driving when I first went on long-term disability. So it just became very, when it was time for me to start driving, it took months for me to be capable of driving without having like fear and tremors and stuff. So in terms of like the writing aspect of things, I think that's also true. Like if you step away from writing for a while and then you come back to it, that it becomes this huge hurdle that you have to overcome all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yes. The other thing that I try to point out to people is that very quickly, AI writing, if you don't select in the style of and get sued, very quickly it becomes almost monochromatic. I don't know how else to say it. It all starts sounding the same. All your characters start sounding the same. All the situations sound the same. Even the plots begin to sound the same, because the LLM is looking for the most common model. So it gets rid of outliers.
Great.
You don't get breakout bestsellers with LLMs, with AI.
No.
You won't, because it's designed for the most common, and of the most common, the lowest denominator of the most common, because it wants to appeal to the largest mass audience. That's really it. So it's great
Well,
for dumbing people down.
Yeah, and you can really tell the difference between AI writing and or LLM writing and human writing.
Hmm.
It's night and day difference. It's like
Well,
a professional terminology when you come to the to the LLM writing.
yeah, I have noticed some people are using like Grok and Chat and different ones, and they are making a point of prompting it in such a way as not to use certain terms and phrasing to make it sound more like a human wrote it. Problem is, even their novels, because they're using the same style of prompting, their own style of prompting over and over again, they all sound the same. But not in the way that a Stephen King novel sounds the same, but in the way that someone copying a Stephen King novel sounds the same. As if they're all copying the same novel over and over and over again. So the critique I have with LLMs is it's you outsourcing your thinking. So the question you have to ask, do you just want to have written a novel? Because if that's your goal, sure, use the LLM. Why learn the craft? I
Yeah.
mean, if you just want to have, written, if you just want to have a new shirt and you're in a sewing class, why sew the shirt if you can go down to the store and buy it? Like, it's the same argument. And then you could bring it to sewing class and say, well, I bought this. And they say, yeah, but you didn't sew it. And you go, well, yeah, somebody else sewed it. What's the biggie? Well, it's the same thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And they say too that a lot of the not, I can't even call them writers. I will say author because they're the ones publishing it. But these people that are generating books, they do it mostly to have a book on the market and to sell as many as possible, as often as possible, to make money, regardless of what the ratings end up being.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear they must be changing their author names or pen names or something,
Yeah.
because once you buy one and you read it and it's got a shit review because it's generated writing, then they're not going to buy it anymore, and other people are going to come and they're going to see this low 1 star rating or 0 star rating, and they're not going to buy it. So you
Yeah.
can't resell this generated book. Like it
And then
just
there's the argument about if you're even allowed to sell it because technically you don't own it. The company that produces that LOM technically owns its output. Well, they're arguing that right now.
Well, and doesn't I don't know if Amazon has this or not, but I have heard discussion about these big book publishing platforms, the booksellers, where they have methods of catching whether or not it was AI that generated it.
Mm-hmm.
So they can choose one day just to flick a switch and remove all of the generated books,
Or that they think is generated, yes.
what they think is generated, which means, yeah, it could impact other people as well. But yeah.
Now, remember, we are our thoughts. We become our thoughts. So if you choose to read a lot of AI generated, LLM generated books, your writing will suffer accordingly. So right now, and it started in 2023, I guess, 2024, there's been a huge revival in the classics, which a lot of people are shocked to discover that a lot of the classics are getting banned. Or not banned officially, just removed and being pushed out of print. Because
Yeah.
they don't want you reading the classics, because the classics invoke thinking, they invoke quality of word and sound. At the same time, we're seeing a lot of we'll call them the ivory tower English program majors are coming out of school, of universities, and they're being taught to write in a very specific way. I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have tried to read a few of these books and I can't. Today's Tyrant's Rant, is brought to you by 360 Teas of Selkirk's English Breakfast. And
I
no, we're
love
not
it.
sponsoring.
I believe that today, while we record this podcast, my ability to be tech savvy has flown right out the frickin' window. So I apologize for the sudden break in our podcast episode.
That's okay. At least I'm not trying to do it going, wait, what am I recording? I think I'm recording something.
Yeah, so now that everything is set up correctly, I'm going to keep everything that we have recorded thus far. So to our listeners, I greatly apologize for the chaos that I have created for you all.
Yes, apologies. We're not LLM'd.
That's right. We are real people, and real people make mistakes.
Yeah. Oops. Okay. Yeah. So what's happening is you have a bunch of young people leaving school with writing programs under their belt, the same writing program, because again, it all becomes the same very quickly. And they have no real experiences, and they're very myopic and narcissistic in their writing. And I asked the question, and oh my stars, was it I caused other people to rant. It was like my rant rubbed off, and I got replies that were like, you're getting a text reply, like an email reply, and it's like, oh my God, this is a comment on a thing I asked, and it's like 1,000 words, it's like a small essay, and I'm like, wow. Like another one, the guy was like, I swear it was 3 pages. I'm like, okay, and I made myself read them because I asked the question, and basically they all were complaining roughly the same thing, and they said, yeah, no, they all agreed. They understood my observations. Many of them said it much better than I have said it. And they also complained about that they all sound the same, and they were pointing out how previous to a certain time you rarely if ever saw writers as main protagonists, but you're supposed to write what you know, and these people don't know anything. They're coming out of university all sounding the same, all writing the same, all belly button gazing, and all writing programs about writers or stories about writers writing, and a lot of them are using what marketers call AI. And I thought this was very interesting. I was like, okay.
I must ask the question, what is belly button gazing?
Okay, so the next gen, not a boomer. And I'm angry with that. Giant ship. Anyway, I'm a X-gen. We would have people who would come along and who would go on about themselves or go on about how they felt about something, right? And in the first point, you're like, yeah, okay, makes sense. But then they would keep going on about it and keep going on about it. And you're like, excuse me, look up from your own belly button. There's a world around you. Get out there and explore it. Because we're just leaving. Because while you sit there and natter to your own belly button, we're out of here. Because as an X-gen, we came home. Nobody was home, right? You started supper, you turned the oven on, you followed the directions, you locked the door, and you went off and played until it got dark. You came home. Or you put supper on, you did your homework, then you ran out and played till it got dark. Because you did, right? I would get home and I'd have half an hour of interesting TV. And that was it. I only had 4 channels, but we had some interesting TV for half an hour. I turned that off. My dad did not get home till 6:45. And we would sit down and have supper between 6:30 and 7, depending. Some days he did come home a little earlier, but most days it was 6:45. And that's when we had supper. You try to have supper as a family. And there was a snack. You made it yourself. There was a list. Do this, do that, do this. Usually just, I'd come in, it was getting dark, and you would turn things on at certain times. That's what you did. But you also, when you went out and played, you just met people, and you talked to them, and you played. You made friends, you interacted, you did stuff, and you asked questions, right? What was this? What was that? What was going on? But then later on, and this is a result of that behavior. I learned this way. It's a common, all us X-gens are like this, all us latchkey X-gens. I should make that clear. There's 2 distinct groups of X-gens. The vast majority were like me, and then there's a small group that were coddled. All right? So they are very different. Anyway, so later on, you'd meet people, and you meet a lot of them. A lot of them. And everything's about them. They're very narcissistic. I have met several of these people, and one person was very upset because they wanted me to look at their book. And I said, I don't edit for other people right now. This was years ago. I already stopped editing for other people. And he said, no, my book is fantastic. I know my book is fantastic, and you will once you read it. My mother loves my book. And I'm like, oh, stars above, right? Because here it goes. And they start going on informing me all about themselves, all about their program. They had done a writing program here in Manitoba, and they went quite on. there was a 15-20 minute of them telling me how great and wonderful they are, how not only how great and wonderful they are, but how put upon they were, how all this suffering. And I started realizing they're trying to get points with me. They're trying to tell me I'm this and I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. And I need to be defined by these things so you know I'm a good person. And I was very confused by this. And so I started asking some questions like, how does your sexual orientation make you a better writer? And they got quite mad at me because how dare I question such a thing? And I said, no, you told me you haven't published a single thing. You've informed me that I should look at your work, but I need to judge it through this lens. I said, no, I already told you I would, if you want me to look at your work, I'm going to judge it on markability and mass appeal. And that got him angry, very angry. And I was like, if you throw a tantrum, you can get the hell out of here because I really don't care.
Wow.
And that shocked them. How dare I not care when they're the center of the universe? And I thought to myself, wow, you went from navel gazing, staring at the belly button, to standing in front of the mirror, buddy. Like you moved to the next step of this. I was very confused by it. And then I listened to several people talk about books. I can't read a lot of the new books. I start to read them and go, no. If I want to hear someone tell me how everything is based on their point of view, and this is a problem. Like everything else, when we produce a really great work, like if you look at the masters, they're called the masters, the painters are called the masters for a reason. If you walk up to one of their paintings, you swear, because I've seen them, that that's a real person standing up there. Okay? When you see the carvings, I have literally heard people try to argue that some of these carvings, some of these fantastic sculptures were actually real people turned to rock using black magic because no one can carve like that. Right? Because it's physically impossible. And I realize because they are incapable of seeing the world, the beauty of the world, and understanding the ability to learn a craft and a skill because it's all about them. You can't be that kind of narcissist and learn a skill because it's not about you. It's about learning the skill. Because they can't imagine that, and it's all about them, their world is very limited. So when they see something like that, well, how could that have happened? Because they can't do it, and they're the center of the universe. And
I have a really hard time with people like that. I remember at the Black Ink Recon, or was that what it was?
Black
Yeah.
Ink Recon. Yeah.
Well, the one out at South Beach.
Yep, Black
That
Ink
was the one.
Recon. It was,
There was one woman there who was very much. I published with Scholastic, and nobody could
yep,
touch her. She was better than everybody else there, and I have a
yep.
really hard time with writers and authors that think so high and mighty of themselves that they're above everybody else.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I have met quite a few of those people. I actually had a gentleman demand I sign an NDA before he showed me his idea.
I remember you
Not
telling
his
me about
novel.
that.
Yeah, he said to me, he says, I need you to sign this NDA. I said, why would I sign an NDA? He says, because I'm going to talk to you about my idea. I said, I don't care about your idea. Show me a finished novel. Well, this idea is fantastic. I said, that I'm happy. Your idea is fantastic. Show me a finished novel. When you've done the work, come back and talk to me. He got quite irate. And a month later, when we were doing our launch, he showed up at the launch with his wife. And they said to me, the wife said to me, my husband's idea is fantastic. I said, I'm happy you brought your wife to tell me how great your idea is. Show me the finished novel. He says, you don't understand this idea. I said, stop right there. Come with me. So I walked him over to the current affairs, I think they call it. It's right next to history. It's at McNally Robinson. There's like this, I think they've moved it since then, but it was like current affairs. And then over here was history. And then here was travel.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, so I walked over to that side, right? I said, okay, let's look around. Let me give you some ideas, okay? I said, look, this is a young woman in the war. She escapes the rape gangs, and she has to travel over these mountains. And And I do like the story. He goes, "Oh, that's a really good idea." I said, "Is it? It's just an idea. You can't patent an idea because it's just an idea. It's what you do with the idea that matters." But wait, I did 4 more, and he was just staring at me. And I said, "So, how many ideas are you going to write those ideas down? What are you going to do?" And he was like, I don't understand. Here's one for you. I said, "You got a senator, and it turns out his secretary gives birth to his child, and it comes out, so he loses his seat. But he never fooled around on his secretary, and he wants to know how the hell it happened that his secretary gave birth to his child when he's never had sex with his secretary. It turns out his wife is bi and has been having an affair with the secretary, who's been dying to have a child. The wife is sterile and wants to have a baby too. So, when her and her husband were making out using edible undies, she took a semen sample and gave it to her girlfriend." This ruins his career.
Well, it would.
Yes, and of course, but the thing is him and his wife still have a healthy sex life, so he's very confused that this could have happened. You know?
So was this another idea that you gave to
Yeah,
him?
just from looking at the headlines right there. And he's looking, because I looked over and there's this thing on infertility crisis, and I was like, a bunch of women are waiting till they're in their 50s to have children, only to discover in their 50s you can't really have kids because you're in your 50s. Anyway, I'm thinking my body in my 50s, I have kids. Anyway, so I say all this to him. That one I actually kind of wrote out a story outline for, but and he's just staring at me, him and his wife, and they're looking at each other. I said, "When you've done the work and you've written the novel, you come back and talk to me." I've not heard from that man since.
Well, there's a reason for that. He didn't write a book.
No, he didn't. So,
is there anything else regarding AI and writing that you wanted to talk about?
yes, people are arguing that they're outsourcing the little things. They're outsourcing planning their day. They're outsourcing organizing their time. They're outsourcing daily tasks to LLMs and AI. And I want them to think about that, because these are the little things that keep your mind stimulated. Several universities have done cognitive studies with their staff and with their sorry, the furnaces came on. It makes all the hairs on my neck because the air runs
mine
up behind
clicked in as well.
Yeah. So what happened is, or what's been happening is, they wait 3 months and they do another cognitive test. Every single person, it didn't matter if it was just for helping out or outright writing responses or emails. So it didn't matter the extent. Every single person showed early onset dementia criteria, all of them, from mild to extreme. And everybody was stunned, because it was showing their mind was losing the ability and elasticity to do things. Just like every other muscle in your body can atrophy, your brain can atrophy. Now, I'm not saying don't use the tool. What I'm saying is don't outsource your thinking to the tool. This is a tool, and you have to be very careful because of the, was it the Eliza effect? Eliza effect. Because of the Eliza effect, you have to be very, very careful. Please look up the Eliza effect and then write a story about the Eliza effect. That's my argument for people. That's my assignment.
Your homework assignment. I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
well, I guess we should wrap things up for the day.
yeah. Oh, one other thing.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan. You can use the AI, the LLM, to come up with a plan to organize your time, but then you do it.
I like
That's
it.
It's a tool. Use it as a tool. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you everybody for joining this unorganized, technical, chaotic episode of the Sable BooKnight podcast. We will talk to you again soon. Have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, night, or whatever, and keep writing.
Remember, story comes first.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today. We hope you have a great rest of your day, afternoon, evening, night, or whatever, and keep on writing.
Yes, and remember, story comes first.